Let's bring Dan Perry in on this, live from Tel Aviv. He's the former Middle East and Europe editor for the Associated Press. Always good to have Dan. What about this contingency planning that the Europeans are doing?
It's very interesting. It certainly reflects the degree of rupture and distrust that there currently is between the Europeans and the U.S. It's part of a bigger situation where the Europeans are contemplating a future where the U.S. might actually make good on Trump's threats to pull out of NATO altogether. And also maybe for messaging internally, the Europeans are taking some heat for completely refusing to participate in the Hormuz theater hitherto, which makes them look like they hate Trump more than they hate the idea of Iran harming the global economy, themselves included. So I think there has been some pressure from within, including from the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, for the Europeans to tweak that approach, and this reflects it.
Yeah, can you see Trump well, he did say something, of course, but he said NATO wasn't there for us, they won't be there for us in the future, but can you see Trump thinking that, hey, if you guys have this plan, and supposedly the Wall Street Journal had it, ensure hundreds of ships that are stuck there can leave, employ major demining operations, like it's specific stuff, military escorts, then why wouldn't you help me do it? Like, what are you waiting to do it on your own for?
As I say, it reflects that they simply don't believe the U.S. under Trump is a reliable ally. They also clearly know that if they did this with the U.S., then the U.S. would dominate the effort. And what can I say? It reflects truly, deeply a rupture. Words can hardly express how shocked the Europeans were and the NATO allies were to see Trump for weeks in January refusing to rule out the use of force to seize Greenland. Greenland, which is part of Denmark and NATO ally. They
Right.
drew their conclusions from that. And from a year and a half of Trump belittling and insulting them.
That's what it came, yeah, the Greenland thing. And I don't know that here in the United States we did grasp it as much. It almost became like a punchline, oh, there he goes again. But then in the way it was taken overseas was much different. I think it's funny, not funny, like humorous, but interesting that you say words cannot express. Let me go to Emmanuel Macron's post on social media on X, because I want to point out some words or a phrase he uses. France and the United Kingdom will host this conference Friday in Paris, bringing together by video conference non-belligerent countries ready to contribute, and he goes on, and that's the one. All right, so someone's belligerent, I guess.
I mean, he's putting America on equal terms with Iran as co-belligerents, and for that matter, Israel. It's brutal. It's not sounding like an alliance. But Trump has not been sounding like an ally for a long time. And the real question is whether this can be undone. Here's another thing that words cannot express. The folly of the U.S. treating NATO as a burden and talking out loud about leaving NATO. I cannot think of a greater gift to a leader in Moscow, maybe since Yalta, which essentially handed Eastern Europe to Moscow 80 years ago, than this.
Right.
NATO doesn't cost America that much. America's contribution to the common fund is under a sixth of it, and it's under $1 billion. That's it. When Trump speaks falsely of how America's footing the bill for NATO, he's talking about general defense budgets. And America, has the biggest military, but it's not funding NATO. America gets from NATO much more than $1 billion worth, I can tell you that. It projects American power all over the world. It gives America access to dozens of bases all over Europe and beyond. It protects America itself by taking the battle outside its borders.
There's a group of people here in the United States who think that type of thinking is outdated, that was, 1945 and this is 2026. And what would you say to that line of thinking or argument?
I would say that history can be funny sometimes, and the past can be prologue. And here we are with a very significant potential enemy to the Democratic Alliance, or what had hitherto been a Democratic Alliance, in Russia. Now, the insane thing is that Trump seems aligned with Putin. We saw that again this week when Trump and Putin were pretty close to the only leaders in the world, maybe outside of Netanyahu, who supported Orban, who lost the election on Sunday, and who were clearly bummed by it. It would be a huge gift to Russia if Trump did this, but I must add, it's not so simple, because NATO is a treaty. The word is contained in the name, and the U.S. has signed on to it, and Congress needs to approve it.
True.
And of course, Trump could easily lose Congress. come the fall. And in general, unless there's an actual act of Congress, the validation of the depression needs to be approved by 2/3 of Congress. So it'll be difficult because no Democrat's going to vote for this foolishness. And I have to think at least some Republicans have the interests, strategic and economic, of the U.S. at heart. And in the end, maybe it'll go away.
That may all be true, but I think there are some practical concerns, though. If you are a NATO supporter, that Trump could make some moves without, getting out of the actual alliance. You're moving troops around or whatever that might
Well,
entail.
you know what
Right.
that would forgo? Tens of billions of dollars in purchase of American armaments, munitions, sophisticated defense weaponry bought by NATO countries.
Dan Perry, as always, thank you. Good perspective. Spent a lot of time overseas and here.